And what we're gonna do is we're gonna double it. Okay, so just like we do the other styles as if it's wire, we'll go ahead and we're gonna fold it in half, and then we'll do our pre-stretching, and then we'll go ahead and get it started. So if we're gonna do a 7, I'm just for good measure gonna cut myself the full length of the ruler like we did before on the 12. Okay, and I think that should allocate enough for what we're doing. So I am going to go ahead and cut my cord, and again, I'm using the 0.6 millimeter. I doubled it, right? So you fold it in half, and I know it's hard to see a little bit. Hopefully you guys got some good lighting and focus on my camera today. But at any rate, I doubled it to cut it, okay? So make sure you double it when you're cutting it, okay? So we do not want to use 2 pieces of wire. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do our pre-stretch. And again, this goes and lends itself to the same concept of all my stretch bracelet tutorials. This is an absolute must. You have to, well, you don't have to. You don't have to do anything. Let me correct that, guys. You should. I wisely encourage you, with all my wisdom to impart on you, that you pre-stretch your stretch cord, my friends. And the reason we do that is, again, so that our stretch bracelets keep their shape, meaning they don't get all stretchy where the stretch cord starts to show through as you're putting them off and on, which eventually over time it will, because that's the material and what it's designed to do. But out of the gate, if you do not pre-stretch your stretch cord out of the gate within just a couple of times of wearing it, it will start to stretch out, meaning lose its design shape. So now we have pre-stretched our cord, and now as you can see by pre-stretching it, I've got more like 14 inches of our bail when we're done. Okay, so to start out, guys, just like we did the very last 2, we will take one side of our cord, and I'll do it this way. Let me move my ruler out of the way, just so hopefully you can really see what I'm doing. I know it's hard because I have clear cord, but again, remember we're rotating between the 2 cords. We're alternating, right? So, but we will, to start out, let's go ahead and let's feed on one of our beads. And then we'll get that 2 sides put together, flush at the top, and then we'll pull that down. So now we've got that centered, okay? And now we will go ahead and begin our pattern. Okay, so we'll put a jump ring on, holding our cords together first, and then we'll go ahead and put on. So now there we go. So we centered our first bead, and then we kept our wires together, or wires cord, and we put on a jump ring, the first bead, and a jump ring. Okay, so we started out. Now we'll start to alternate from here. And so again, we're going to be mindful of what bead we're putting on what strand. And so let's see, this is going to be a little tedious, like I said, because we're dealing with stretch. So it's clear and a little bit more difficult for the eye to see, but this will start to take shape before you know it. Just a couple of runs and it'll go ahead and start to take its shape. Even though I try to keep my cords separate, it's it's near impossible. But this is also a fun way to do stretch bracelets. I mean, excuse me, goddess bracelets, putting them on stretch, because again, it's so much, you know, more like cost efficient, because you know, the stretch stuff does not cost as much as our beading wire. So just alternating between here. And for those of you, let me go ahead and start talking here, that maybe did not see some of my previous goddess bracelets. Let me explain to you what I'm doing. Okay, it's starting to go ahead and take shape. So what I'm doing is we are alternating our strands with the last bead, and then we put our strands together to feed on a jump ring. Okay, so I will talk you through that again if you did not watch my previous goddess bracelet videos. So we have 2 pieces of cord. So the last cord I had put this bead on. So now I will put my strands together and I will feed on a jump ring. And then you grab the opposite strand. So the last strand I did was this side with that bead. And now I will take a white bead and put it on the alternating strand. And let that drop down. We put our cords back together. And then go ahead, put your jump ring. So you're always feeding your jump ring with your cords together. And then the last bead that you fed on, you feed the next bead on the opposite cord. And in this case, also, I'm doing an asymmetrical, so I am being mindful of making sure that I'm picking up the correct color of bead. My, pink versus white. Okay, and so the pink went on this side. Now I've got a jump ring through both, and now I'll go back to this side and I'll put on a white bead. I've got my jump ring on both those cords. The last bead I fed on was this side over here. So now I'm going to grab the opposite strand and I'll go with a pink bead. And you just go ahead and feed that on there. And then put both your cords together and you feed on a jump ring. And then my pink bead just went on this strand right here. So now I'll go to the opposite strand and I'll grab a white bead. Slide that on there. Put my cords together. And then we feed on a jump ring. And we'll talk this through one more time and then I'll pull it up and I'll show you what's to start to take shape. And now I just went on a white bead on this strand, so now I'm going to grab this strand over here for a pink bead. And then I'll put them together for a jump ring. And now the pink went on this strand. So next we need to go on this strand with a white. And so what you're doing with the goddess, guys, is you're alternating your strands in between putting a jump ring on both strands. So in other words, you're putting on one strand a bead, and then you put the strands together and you put on a jump ring. And then you grab the opposite strand of what you just fed a bead on, and you put on another bead. And that's how we get this effect that's kind of, I guess, maybe you can call it like a zigzag effect or something. That's how we get the effect. So I am at 7 inches, guys. Look at how beautiful this is. Let's do the try and test and see where we're at, because we're in stretch again, right? And so by the time we put on that bail, we're perfect. That's absolutely, we're exactly where we want it. So after your last jump ring that goes through both, keep both of your strands together and then put on your last bead through both strands. Okay, so now that's what we have. And now what we'll do is we're gonna put on, keep the strands together, and we'll go ahead and we'll put on our veil. Okay? And so now what we're going to do is, this is what we have. Okay, we can do the final, try-on method to make sure. And yes, that's gonna be perfect. Once we tighten it up, it'll be fine. So now what you're gonna do is you are going to take and separate your strands, and we are going to go back to that first bead, so you can kind of pull it down a little bit where you've got some area to work with. We're gonna take one strand and feed it right through there, guys. See that? See what I'm doing? Right there, that's why we put that strand together and centered that first bead on the wire. Now we're going back to that area, and we're gonna just take and feed one strand through there, right through there. So between the first bead and that jump ring, okay? And so grab that, pull it through, and then grab your other strand that was laying down over there, and now we'll pull them together, okay? And now this is what we have, okay? So there you go, that's what you have. So you've got that strand right there through that beginning piece of wire, and both of our strands are together, and there's our bail. And this bail will end up hiding our knot. So now what we're gonna do is the triple 5-knot roll. And so we will just go ahead and take our first knot, and then we're just gonna tie a regular knot. And you do wanna go ahead and try to, pull it a little bit. We're gonna go under and do crisscross, pull them back to the top, and now we'll start our triple knot. So we'll go around once and then twice. And see right there, I have a triple knot. Right there. Okay? So we've got our triple knot right there. And now we'll start to pull it tighter each time. So then we go and we're gonna do the crisscross. So we take and cross the opposite underneath, the opposite direction of our cords, bring them back to the top, and then we're gonna do it again. Do a regular knot, and then pull it through a second time. And so that gives you your triple knot. And then we'll pull it down. Just make sure when you're pulling it down, you guys, that you are staying right there between that bead and that bail, that you keep pulling it down in the same place. Okay, so I just went under, now I'm back at the top. I am tying a regular knot and then pulling it through a second time. So right there, I have a triple knot, and then I'll go ahead and pull it to make sure it stays in the same spot. That's 4 times. And now we'll go under, cross them over, bring them back to the top, and then we will do our last triple knot here on the top. And pull that down. And we'll go ahead and pull that nice and tight now. Okay? And now we can go ahead and get rid of all of that extra tail. And make sure when you're cutting it, you guys, can you see my knot right there? I'm cutting it way above my knot, like by at least a 1/4 inch, 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. You don't want to get too close to your knot, okay? Because it's all going to get hidden anyway. So just go ahead, cut it just like that. And now, look what happens. With no glue, we're just perfectly fine. Now we just pulled that knot right inside that bail, and the knot is completely disappeared inside the bail. Now we'll grab 2 little beads, maybe 1 or 2 little beads. We'll grab our head pin, and let's see, maybe we'll just put on 2. Let's see how 2 looks. I think that's cute. So let's do that, and then we'll just do a quick little loop. Just a quick little loop here on this head pin, and we'll attach it to the bail, and we'll pull it up and see what we have. And we'll try it on. And now you guys know how to make a goddess bracelet with stretch magic. Yay! Now we have done, and I'm just opening up the loop and I'm just going to feed it on my bail. Now we've done 3 techniques. So I'll just open up my loop, feed it right there on my little bail, and then I'll close my loop on my head pin, make sure, you know, again, that's closed good. And because I'm just being mindful, because I'm using stretch magic, that I don't have any sharp edges or anything anyway. And that is what we have, guys. So there you go. This is what we have. There's our little bail. And there you go. That's what we have. And it looks so cool. That is beautiful, you guys.